Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin,
And I'm Josh.
and we're here to finally break down Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Visions Volume 2, and other
Yay.
news.
Spoilers.
Yes, spoilers.
We gave it long enough, all right.
Yes.
Should have finished.
So Josh beat the game in 28 hours. I think after a couple of days after it came out, because I know you worked and then you played like that weekend, right? Yeah.
I continued. I still had work and then was still playing because
Wow.
I didn't want to put it down. There's the story beats in it where I was like, nah, I could have gone to sleep now, but I have to finish this.
Yeah, I wanted to play all week long, and Josh would message me like every day and say, "Hey, have you beat it?" And I'm like, "No," because we had like Hunter, Christian, and some of the other crew from the Bad Batch breakdown for Star Wars Day, and they were in the Halcyon, which that podcast will be coming out some point this weekend, where we'll be doing our review for the Halcyon, which is cool. But that was my week, and then we also had Visions as well. That was awesome. Now, do you wish that the game came out on the original date that it was supposed to, or are you happy that it came out like the day that it did? Because I was hoping to like have played it before May 4th, because I knew it was going to be a crazy week, because of everything happening with like on Star Wars Day, and then on top of that, I knew my friends were coming, so I planned specifically for the 28th. I was like, all right, cool. I'm getting the time off of work. I'm going to play it. It's going to be great. I'm going to have all the time to play. And then they changed it. And then my schedule got completely chaotic.
That's okay. So I can't know. I know that we paused it for polish, and I can tell you now, if it released in the same state for console as it did for PC,
yeah,
I definitely wouldn't have been happy. But yeah, I think it was really. I think it's good that we had the pause. I would have liked it earlier. I won't lie. Anytime that I get like a game earlier than it, instead of it being pushed back, it would have been nice. But if they gave time to try and polish out the console like gameplay, and that's fine with me. I'm completely fine with that. But my goodness, I feel really bad for the PC side of things.
yeah. No, oh man, yeah. And I think I got a couple of glitches. I'm not sure if you experienced it, but for me, I would be using the Force on something, and it would like end up kind of taking the option away for me to use the Force on it, and like I kept doing it, so I would save, quit, go back to the main menu, then come back, and then it would end up working. And it still does that because I was playing yesterday, and that was still happening to me. So I think there's some small like glitches and bugs here and there, but overall, I think the game was fantastic. I thought the story was great. I think something that helped you like really get more like into the actual story was you got the limited edition Cal Kestis lightsaber that they had on Star Wars Day. And that, and you also got the collector's edition as well. And I heard that you had I heard you had a great friend wait in line for you for that lightsaber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Star and Cap.
So that lightsaber that Josh got, he got number 3 out of 7,500, which is insane, because there's no way that I was number 3 in line. So they must have kind of
they're just like, all right, we'll just pick whichever one. Here you go.
Right. So I kind of feel bad for the first person in line, but I mean, hey. But yeah, so now, did you have the Jedi Fallen Order one, like of the normal Cal Kestis one?
I don't have the normal one. I have only the collector's edition one that came with the game, and the newer double-sided one. But yeah, the main difference between the one from the collector's edition that came out with the game is just the end cap pommel from the new game, and then the double-bladed one is the same one from the last game.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
the cool thing about that one is that it changes different colors. So
yeah. I bet after getting that lightsaber and then playing the game would like just kind of pumped up your experience like even more.
And it does the thing that I wish that we could have in this one is have different colors per lightsaber.
Yeah, because and this one, after you beat the game, you can play it again, and then you get a red lightsaber, and then you end up getting a party saber, also known as a rave lightsaber. So like it is just like constantly changing colors, and so
Only
um,
until I changed it on to party mode, which allows your color of your lightsaber to change every time you attack, did I notice on the PS5 controller that it changes colors, which was pretty funny.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it changes colors depending on what color your lightsaber is.
I recommend playing this on. So I've got an Xbox and I do have a PlayStation, and I remember playing a Jedi Fallen Order on Xbox, but playing it on PlayStation 5 is awesome. And you also hear, I think every time that BD ends up like seeing something, he makes a noise. It comes on the TV, but it also comes off of your remote as well. And when you turn on the lightsaber, like it shakes your controller. So
Other things
it's
that I
awesome.
noticed on the controller, it's you get the feeling when of the trigger pull is when you're using the force.
Yep.
You get the sound of the stims, just like last time. When you actually inject them, it makes a sound on the controller. When you open up the map, it makes a sound on your controller. And yeah, BD also makes a sound every time he jumps off your back to point out something of importance.
Yeah.
Or scans.
Yeah. So, and again, this game is fantastic. I think I think there's a lot of other channels that are saying this too, but I think it's on the verge of being one of the greatest Star Wars franchise games.
Yeah, IGN said that if they nail the landing in the next game, they feel like it's probably the best Star Wars trilogy in the last 30 years, which is super high praise.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you've got great games like the original Star Wars Battlefronts. You've got Star Wars Old Republic. You got Force Unleashed, which kind of in a way this is like the new Force Unleashed. If you think about it, like of that type of fighting style of a game.
I would say it's like you finally have a single player driven narrative game from Star Wars again, and I feel like they kind of are allowed to explore new areas in Star Wars and flesh out stories that deserve to be morally fleshed out. Like High Republic wise, High Republic plays a big story role in it. And I was like, ooh, cool. But it was kind of weird hearing other characters in Star Wars
call it the High Republic.
I referred to it as the High Republic. I was like, interesting.
I would like to know the thought process of that because I think we've heard them call the Old Republic at some point, right?
I would believe so.
Yeah, so that would make sense to me as well. So I guess it's weird because the High Republic to us as an audience is still technically new. So and I think we're just kind of getting used to that and seeing it on screen, which I think this was like the real first test of seeing it in some format of screen and not in a comic book or book. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. And they also tied in different things from those books into this game. And it was done in a very tasteful way. It wasn't over the top. And I think the different references from different Star Wars projects and cameos here and there, again, spoilers, was also tasteful. It wasn't over the top of where like it was just about that character. For example, when Vader shows up, it wasn't, hey, this is our Darth Vader driven level. It was him coming in, doing his thing, getting in and getting out. It wasn't like an over top moment where it was like all about Darth Vader. And in that moment when you're Seer and you're fighting him, I wasn't it was kind of weird, but I really wasn't focused on Vader. I was focused on how Seer, of what was going to happen to Seer, and how her journey, of where her journey has come, and the fact that I kind of knew that she was going to meet her fate I wasn't really focused on, oh my gosh, it's Darth Vader. I was, is Seer gonna make it? Is Seer not gonna make it? So I think that was great to have Vader come in and not have him be like um, the main kind of drive for that entire level. And then you also have a mention of the hidden path, which that's a tie-in into the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And we don't know exactly where in the timeline, like we know what's happening the same year as Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we don't know exactly when. So we don't know if it's happening after Obi-Wan Kenobi. We don't know if it's happening before. My guess, and some other people have said this, is that it takes place after, and Darth Vader has this drive and this anger against Obi-Wan, but because he lost, he's like trying to find somewhere to put it, and then he gets the call about Seer being alive, and then he just, he ends up going to Jedi, and he just takes out his all of his anger on the loss of getting defeated by Obi-Wan, and takes out on Seer. I could definitely see that being a thing.
If we start to get into the story, would you say? So if you could break down the story, do you like where it starts and ends?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In comparison to the last game, I was like wondering, I think you have in the first game where you have the opening, where you're in the scrapyard, you have the music playing and the swelling of music.
Great song, by the way.
I feel, yeah, which is cool having the Who back for this one. They've done 3 new songs, I believe.
Yeah.
I really liked having this new beginning. Coming back to Coruscant. I like how the start menu, as soon as you hit like start game, it brings you directly into the game on Coruscant, and you get to see where the Jedi Temple is, and you're flying straight past it. So at the beginning of the game, you are, it looks like you're captured. You're going to Coruscant to meet up with be delivered to a senator. That senator is the senator of Utapau. When you actually do get there, it turns out that this was a whole heist program to be able to get more information on the Empire's plans throughout all the galaxy. So, what do you think about the opening little heist piece showing how far Cal has come?
Well, for starters, I think the best way to describe the team that Cal Kestis with is like X-Force from Deadpool, because you like had all these characters and you're like, oh, cool. Like they all have a part to play on the team, and then you got Bode, which don't even get me started on Bode. Because I think Josh and I have very interesting takes on the character. But overall, I thought that the opening was great. I thought them not revealing that the security guards were that they were kind of part of the heist, that they were on Cal's team. I loved the opening shot of him going into the temple. I mean, of them passing the temple, and Cal kind of has that face of like, huh, I haven't been here in a very long
remember
time.
that place.
Yeah, I remember that place, but now it's, it's the Emperor's Palace. That's it's wild. Going back to the lower levels of Coruscant was great. It made me thought of
1313, baby.
Yep. A game that we'll probably never get. I still have hopes for it, but man, that game was going to be amazing. And then seeing them kind of walk on through the lower levels, and you don't really get any civilian interaction like you do on Kobo of when you're playing in Coruscant. It's strictly like a combat area, not really meant for exploring like Kobo, which the planet is huge. Kobo is huge. But for Coruscant, that level, seeing them go after the senator, and that kind of adding to like the heist was very interesting, because you see Cal still trying to balance of being a Jedi and then also not following all the rules as the Jedi Order did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have more of the character growth between him and Bode, which makes his betrayal even more tragic. But yeah, no, I thought Coruscant was the best place to open. And again, did you think the game was going to open on Coruscant?
Well, I mean, from everything that people said, it was funny because it's in the first shot of like on the startup screen. So I was like, I think we're starting here. But yes, our friend who's in the chat, yes, I think of the new stances that we have, they keep the 3 from the original, which is really cool. The new stance of Blaster and Crossguard, I really do. I think, in my opinion, it depends on what difficulty you're playing and what kind of games you're familiar with. Really do like the Blaster. That's probably one of my new favorites for the game.
Yes.
It becomes a better weapon once fully specced into, as in you have different upgrade points into it.
Absolutely.
And also, when you complete bounties, your special shot that you get can be changed. So you have one that you can shoot and it shocks enemies. So it's like an AoE attack. You have another one that bounces between targets, and you have the original charge shot, which does a lot of damage when it hits. So of those 3, the charge shot that allows you to bounce between different enemies, I like the most. I played throughout the game. My first playthrough was with Crossguard, just the 2 new stances. So Crossguard and the Blaster shot. That's mostly because I came from, I like From Software games. I like Elden Ring. And for me, playing with the Crossguard in its slow stances, I like it. And it's like slow, but you hit hard. But a lot of people were saying like, hey, you're playing the game, you're going to have a lot of enemies on the screen at once. That's why they like using the dual bladed lightsaber.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked using the double blades and then the blaster stance. I think the blaster stance was a great call. Was it David that said that? A lot of people were saying it was very similar to Kyle Katarn, and I was like, but you've got Ezra and Kanan as well that had that stance, and there was like a bunch of different Jedi that also had that stance. So I was like, it's not like they own the right to do that. Like there, of course, there will be other Jedi, but I like the fact that Cal was like, Jedi really never were meant to use blasters, and my master kind of frowned upon it. So it wasn't like I loved the fact that he kind of fought against it at first to have a blaster, and then he was convinced by Bode. He was like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'll try it."
Yes, the story of Cal becoming older and understanding morality and dealing with morality in this universe is pretty cool. Seeing the faults of the Jedi and towards their future is really cool as well. A big part of that is probably like when you finally get to Kobo to go meet up and try and fix the Mantis.
Yes.
Fixing the Mantis from Greaves. So it's cool to see him again. His cool beard. He owns a bar now, which is pretty cool. Full little cantina. So what did you think of the characters, the new characters that we have?
Torgal.
You.
Torgal.
I think that is probably one of my weird criticisms that I'll say. When you have Star Wars in the themes of watching it on screen, you kind of have you have your preconceptions of what they should look like, and then you get to see them on screen. You're like, yeah, that's a Star Wars character I really like. It's weird for me to hear voices or famous voice actors that I know from different pieces of media show up in Star Wars, because for me,
yeah,
like I know it takes me out of it for a little bit, and I know it doesn't do that for everyone. However, for me, like hearing Invader Zim come out of a Star Wars character, I was like, okay. And then Bode is played by the same guy who does Yasuo from League of Legends, and it made me laugh. For those two voice actors probably pulled me out of it a little bit. I do like the characters. It's just I know that I was kind of like, eh. I wouldn't doubt that you're going to see some of these characters again from like all the other ones that are in the Star Wars media.
Well, I know there was also I'm probably going to pronounce his last name wrong. There was also TJ Mini who played Del Miko in Star Wars Battlefront 2. He voiced the senator from the beginning of the game as well. So it's cool to see him come back, even though he wasn't the same character. You can tell he's a Star Wars fan, like of being like, yeah, sure, I will definitely play another character of the Star Wars universe. And that game was also made by EA, so it makes sense that he would have good relations. Yeah.
I think that they do a really good job at the beginning of the game of showing how far Cal Kestis has come in his struggles. I like when you finally do fight the first sister. I mean, as in the first sister that you fight in the game, which is the ninth. But killing, I like how that fight basically you're like, I know you're Jedi, and you were at least. And then immediately you like,
dude, come back.
You're like, all right, I'll set you free, and then immediately cut her head off. I was like, ooh. Ooh.
And that's how you really knew. I mean, I kind of knew at that point that Cal was kind of changed, but that was also the moment I think to the audience where it's like, this is not the same Cal Kestis.
He's picking a few up from Saw Gerrera, running so many missions for him.
Yeah, and that was also cool to have a mention of the character, but not see him. I wasn't expecting to see an actual cameo from Saw in the game, so just having like of them saying it was totally fine by me. Because I think the first game having those cameos from characters that we actually know in the Star Wars universe was great to kind of help build of what the Jedi series is. But now having these characters established, I think kind of closing out some stories was great. And then not having them be part of the main story. Again, Darth Vader is a fine example of just having him come in and then, kind of leave. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to see the ninth sister, right? Yeah, it's the ninth sister.
I believe so.
Yeah. I was not expecting to see her.
I was wondering if we were going to get more, because something I absolutely love and I made the right decision on was not watching any trailers past the first one so that I didn't know if anything new popped up.
Yep.
So anything that like hadn't popped up for me in the game, I was like, oh, cool. That I hadn't seen that first trailer, like was always going to be new. Coming into Kobo and really kicking off the story is when you finally realize that, like, hey, like the High Republic characters were here. Like this was a High Republic station. Like people came to this planet and lived on this planet. Lots of Jedi have been through here, and lots of Jedi have had their like Jedi trials there. So I thought that was really cool.
I thought it was also a great, again, a very tasteful way to add in the High Republic into Star Wars. Where
first time, baby.
Right. So it's establishing something new, but saying it's been here for a very long time. And we know that the High Republic was somewhere on the planet of Batuu and Galaxy's Edge. We know that that it played a part in Coruscant and just kind of across the galaxy. But seeing it again on screen is amazing. I like in some format, like a game, a TV show. I think it's great. And I think this is kind of preparing us for the show Acolyte, which is coming out next year. And that's going to be really, really exciting because that's when it's just at the end of the prime of the High Republic. Because if we are getting close to like the end, and then I think by the end of the show, we'll kind of see of how it turns into the corrupted Republic that we see in the prequels. and we kind of see the High Republic and the Jedi there kind of low key being corrupted. I think it was kind of seeing it from the antagonist's eyes, and
it's cool seeing how during the High Republic, everyone was kind of going out throughout the galaxy and trying to like bring peace and order, but also new technology and new developments to try and enhance the galaxy and basically find their own way through the galaxy as Jedi and make something of themselves. I think that's a big point in this with when they finally introduced Dagan Gera as the main antagonist to the game. I also really like how when meeting Ravis, Ravis completely understands and has been there for well over like 200 years.
Yeah.
I think, Dagan's birth date has him born before 232 BBY. And this game takes place 9 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Because they didn't really explain how the Bacta kept him alive that long.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can do that. You can just put them in Bacta, and then you're like, all right, you're gonna stay there.
Well, he wasn't frozen. No, yeah,
no, he wasn't frozen, but I don't know what it is. It could be something different. It's High Republic era at this point.
Yeah.
Plus, both of them were scientists, and the girl he was working with is technically their chief medical officer.
Okay, interesting. How did we feel about the droid Z?
I was like, that's High Republic right there. It sure is. That sure is a High Republic robot.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the story overall. I thought having the High Republic in the game was a very smart idea, because it was also bringing that era into present day with the conflict of the Empire. And that's kind of like a twist that we haven't really seen in Star Wars. So I thought that was a very smart idea. And then also it's a great way to promote the High Republic, because now you play the game, you're like, I would love to know more about the High Republic. Well, guess what? There's a bunch of books, there's a bunch of comics. Go and check that out. And then when you read those, and then you go to and then when you go and watch Acolyte, or you go and play Jedi Survivor, you will understand everything a lot better. And I think that was a very smart place to go. But I think this was also the first time that we saw someone actually make a crystal bleed, right? Like in a format that was on screen, because we've seen it in the books and comics and everything, but we never seen it like on screen like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from my eyes, the lightsaber was that red orangish color, just like the lightsabers that we saw in Ahsoka. Like I'm
sure. I mean, you said that. I didn't see that personally.
Because if I like kind of paused it, I like kind of took a screenshot and I looked closely at it and was like, that looks
well. For all we know,
but
you could have different HDR settings on your TV.
True.
Because I know that changed for me when I was playing the game.
Oh, okay. Because because I saw that, I was like, interesting. Is that a nod to what's going on with the fallen Jedi type characters that are in Ahsoka?
I do find it funny, as soon as you take Dagan out of the Bacta tank, he immediately like starts undoing his lightsaber, and I'm like, is he about to bleed it?
He just woke up angry. Like, could you imagine of just just falling asleep, waking up all these years later, and just being so like driven by hatred as
I
soon as
think
you wake up. Like, all right, you know what? This
well, I
is
think
it.
what's
There's
something
no
it's
time that's passed.
that's implied when Cal actually has his hand on and he's doing that force echo ability that he has on the tank and living through the memories is that Dagon is literally just sitting there having his memories replay over and over and over and over and over again in his head, and he knows what's going on. That's why he immediately says to Cal, like, "You're not meant to be here," and then immediately says, "Release me." So I feel like he knows he's imprisoned. He's been there for a very long time, and he's like, "I just want to leave."
Yeah.
So if you just have your head over and over and over playing again, that like all of the stuff that you worked on for so long, yeah, like, and the reason that he's angry of having the Jedi Council basically ditch a new planet for them to build a new Jedi temple on, like his life's work, all the effort that he put in, is pretty interesting to me. I like that. Him
Yeah.
getting angry about that, I was like, ooh, cool. And it's all fresh. As soon as he like leaves the tank, he's like super angry.
I also like how the antagonists in this game aren't a very black and white type view of like he is a bad guy because he's making bad decisions. I think it's great to have uh their characteristics and their plot points be very relatable in a way. And we'll definitely talk about Bode be because as soon as I beat the game, you and I talked about Bode, and I felt like you sent me like a novel, like of like, hey, hey, listen, this is how I feel about Bode. I relate to him in a way, and I'm like, elaborate, and you're like, well, here's this, and you send me like a giant paragraph. I'm like, oh, okay, but
Um, I think
yeah,
that this game echoes a set of hopelessness and hope, just like the original trilogy does. Um, the idea that from the beginning of the game, you are basically told, like, after all that I've been working with Saw Gerrera for these many years, we've been hitting point after point. I've made all these new friends, and basically they all die, and we still have not made a dent in the galaxy fighting the Empire at all. Like the
yeah,
grip is still just as tight. I think that speaks volumes towards the end of the game where everyone is trying to find a way to be able to survive in the galaxy, knowing how bad it is because of the Empire. Because even when you fully take over the little like the yacht that the Utapauan senator is on, you can they're basically like, hey, you have to make a deal here. Like, if you can't beat him, join him at this point. Which is it gets reflected later on in the game with Bode, which is really cool. Going to Jeddah. Did you like going to Jeddah?
I was not expecting it. I was trying to speculate of what the sand planet was in the trailers, and Jeddah was. I don't think Jeddah was on my list, so I think that was great to again to go somewhere familiar that we barely really spent time on.
Mm.
And again, there is a tie-in to the Force and the Wills and everything. Rogue One, awesome tie-in. Uh, which now I'm curious if maybe Saw Gerrera got his idea to go to Jeddah from Cal Kestis because Cal spent time there and was like, "Hey, in different parts. It's isolated. It's a good place to hide." We kind of drove the Empire out of there by like kind of scaring them. So there's certain parts of Jeddah where they won't go, and
I think
even
that
even though the
shows like
Empire's
another thing
there,
that they were saying is that like their tactics become very interesting. It's like, hey, after Jeddah absolutely gets completely like it'll get completely taken over through Rogue One side, where they'll start mining all the kyber crystals and for the Death Star, is that operate in a place that your enemy's already been to or doesn't really suspect you. So I think that comes up later. When you're on Jeddah, did you like seeing where Seer is and how Seer's been doing and Marin's been doing?
Yeah, I was not expecting. Well, so I think we both saw the part in the trailer of where Seer has some of the Jedi archives, like a whole shelf from
Mhm.
the library. Kind of curious on how she got that because one of the only people that had it was Joe Costanew. So did Seer go to where Joe Costanew was hiding, and then she's like, "Oh, here's all of her stuff. I'm just gonna
Well, we do know that
put
a
this in a
lot.
space U-Haul and then take it across the galaxy." Like, I'm curious how that happened.
We do know a lot of the data that she has actually comes from the people who are already on Jeddah. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
collection of all the old Jedi stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I did like seeing that. Did you like the Trident class assault ship coming down and absolutely blowing the crap out of the place?
It was interesting to see the Empire using it. I think that I was very surprised by that. Seeing the love type relationship um between Mira and Cal was also something that I kind of suspected. I know a lot of. So, have you read Jedi Battle Scars?
Yes, it's a very mid book.
Okay. So, right. In that book, so I haven't read it. I kind of skimmed it, just so I knew like the main plot points, so I wasn't going completely blind into kind of like the small hints and stuff in the book and the game. But in the book, they do kind of reveal that she is pansexual because she has a relationship in a way with a other character in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, and I think that kind of drove people away of saying, "Oh, well, then that ship has sailed on Cal." I didn't think that. I thought she still had feelings for Cal, so I kind of suspected that that was gonna happen in the game. And see them have their whole romantic thing. Do you ship that relationship, or are you just like
I
it's
like
just
it. I
fun?
like it. It's actually really cool having someone who's connected to the dark side and is born into it, being the one who's in love with Cal, who
Yeah.
is completely light sided, and I feel like he is really becoming uh, a side of Gray Jedi that people really want. Like him and Ahsoka are the type of like Jedi in the future that I really really like, which makes me wonder is if because I feel like Tanalor will play a giant role in the next game.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if that's the reason or where they're at in the story. Or will Cal find like completely make it up to the whole Filoni thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is going to be a big thing going forward. And that's actually something that we talked about on the last on the last podcast, which was there's two ways that they can deal with Cal Kestis. And the third one, they just kill him off. And then that explains why we don't see him like fight with the rebellion or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or the next time that we see him is in the Dave Filoni Mandalorian movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it in a very tasteful way of where they're like, hey, we need muscle, who is kind of in our category.
Dude,
And Ahsoka's
I
like,
think they had, as they were saying, it's kind of like their whole end game event. So
yeah,
everyone would lose their mind seeing him on screen. So I think, and personally, I think we'll get him in that movie. It makes
I
sense in
mean,
my head.
it makes sense. He's the person that plays Cal Kestis, Cameron Monaghan, is a great actor. He loves Star Wars. He understands the character. He is the character, and I just think that he would do great in live action. And
Mhm.
we've already got different hints in in different projects, you know, of the actual shows, because you have the Bad Batch, where in season 1 we got Braca, and the first time we saw Braca was in Jedi Fallen Order. And then you've got the Book of Boba Fett, where we see a BD unit. So it's like, oh, okay. So I think they are definitely hinting at that he will come to live action. And I think Dave Filoni is going to be the one to tackle it and not do it in a very I don't want it to be like a complete fan service of where like, here's Cal Kestis, it's all about him. I just I really would like him to kind of fit into the story.
Mhm.
And I think if Ahsoka ends up, you know, of being like, hey, I know someone that could help us. He has been in the unknown regions for a long time, and then they go visit him, and you just see Cal like just being very, very strong and very tuned in with the Force and kind of understanding the dark and light. And that's why Ahsoka and him kind of connect so well, because Ahsoka is no longer a Jedi. I think that would be very, very cool to see. And then in that big battle, you have like Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka and Cal Kestis just fighting like alongside each other. Like that would be the craziest thing, and that would be like a big end game moment. And I could definitely see you just jumping out of the seat, like going, "Yeah, let's go!"
Yeah,
So
it would make
yeah,
me pretty happy.
yeah. So,
Um,
but yeah,
I think something that was really interesting for me is that when you finally do end up having your final boss fight with Dagon, and you realize like, oh wow, this is still going,
yeah.
and everything looks like it's going really well, and then you get a full on Bode betrayal. Where seeing him kill Master Cordova, seeing him
Oh,
kill, basically sell out the entire crew
that was
and take
tragic,
off on a
man.
speeder.
Oh, that
I
was
was
so
like,
tragic.
whoa!
I was so mad. I like
As he's
saw it
basically,
coming. I saw it coming at the campfire. Be just because the way that like he was talking,
Mhm.
and to me it looked like he was kind of having second thoughts, but then he was like, no, I think we need to like I need to do this. I have to do this for my daughter. There's no going back. And oh man, I was hoping they wouldn't do it. And then I think the big thing that threw me off was that he was a Jedi beforehand. He was a
Yeah,
force
the whole
wielder.
force push where he's like, "You're not the
Yeah.
only one who survived." I was like,
Yeah.
"Let's go!"
Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
And
I thought it was
then,
really cool.
yeah. So that whole scene of betrayal was just sad.
Him
But
working with
then,
the Inquisitors,
yeah.
and yeah, I thought that was cool.
And then doing something that they didn't do in the first game was you got to play a different character, and we got to play Seer,
In her
and
final moments,
yeah, in their final moments. But that still was awesome.
yeah,
I loved that. I thought that was cool. Um,
her fight between Vader is really cool.
yeah,
You of course lose, but I thought the fight was really really cool.
yeah. Again, I know I've already talked about it, but just having Vader come in and not just be like him not stealing the spotlight from Seer, I think that was great. I think just having him, yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw him walk through the door, I was like, okay, Seer's gone. She's dead. She's not gonna make it. There's no way. Uh, because I didn't want them to pull a other Kenobi plot where you get stabbed by Vader twice and you survive. Like that's, to me, that was just like, no, you can't do that here. So I figured Seer was gone as soon as he walked through the door. But yeah,
And that
I love that fight.
it
I
becomes like a full on chase towards trying to get Bode, and I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah.
That's what kicked me into the game where I was like, I need to finish this game. I need to figure out what happens. So you basically chase Bode across the galaxy, trying to get him before he can get to this planet that you can only get through with a like a little wayfinder, little device. I thought that was pretty funny. So what did you think about Bode's story?
I'm curious of what Inquisitor killed his wife. Do you think it
There's a,
was the Grand Inquisitor? Do you think it was the fifth brother? Because I don't think that was revealed.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah. And I know this is our friend Mike loves the Inquisitors, and I think um a big thing that he's talking about is one great thing from the Disney era of Star Wars is introducing the Inquisitors, and I agree with him. I think having them uh, come in and be the semi antagonists, like for different surviving Jedi, where it's not Vader hunting 24/7. I think that was a very smart part on them because could you imagine like Vader just going to every single Jedi and like I just feel like that would just be kind of unrealistic. But having different Jedi that like, that aren't Jedi masters, that's not really on Vader's level. So having these Inquisitors kind of deal with like not the as powerful Jedi was a very smart idea. So having the Inquisitors come in was really cool. But I'm really curious of what Inquisitor was the one that
Yeah, it doesn't show it. It just says that the Inquisitors took out their frustration on his wife.
yeah. So maybe we'll find out later. Maybe that might be part of his daughter's name is Taka, right?
Kata.
Kata, sorry. Maybe that might be part of the third game. She like might find out who it is, and it might be like the Grand Inquisitor or something like that. But at that point, depending on where the story ends up being and the where it ends up being in the timeline, the Grand Inquisitor could be gone. So I'm just curious, like who it was. But overall, I thought his story was very interesting, and I know you said that his character, the way that he dealt with certain situations, was very relatable. Could you elaborate on that to the audience?
His family is basically killed, and to keep his daughter alive, he says, "I need to become useful." So basically, becomes an undercover inquisitor. Basically,
Yeah.
Works with the ISB and says, "Hey, look, I will point out every Jedi I can," and they give him the mission of basically infiltrating Saul Guerrero's group, and then he figures out like, "Hey, look, I can get in good talks with Cal Kestis for you guys." So, and the idea is basically to take out Cal Kestis. So I think that's really cool. Where and then a couple of the Force Echoes goes like, "Hey, he can basically take out Cal Kestis now. However, Cal keeps giving so much information to them that they might as well stay here, and might as well let him continue his work." And then when Bode figures out like, "Hey, I've just found a way to get away from the Empire. I'm going to continue this and take this Wayfinder for myself so that me and my daughter can live without the influence of the Empire or knowing that she could be harmed," which I was like, cool, very, very cool. So when you actually do fight him at the end and you have your whole little battle, when Bode is basically subdued, he, like before Cal's like trying to give him a last chance, Bode asks Cal like, "Hey, look, like, I would 100% completely stop. But if you let everyone come here and try and be safe from the Empire, how can you actually know that my daughter is going to be safe from the Empire?" And Cal just doesn't answer that because he knows, like, hey, if I could be betrayed by Bode here, then technically anyone could sell this whole place out to the Empire. So I was like, really cool, really, really, really cool. And yes, Bode would have killed Cal if his gun did not go off.
Yeah.
So yeah. That the little click of his of his gun, I was like, dang.
I think something that I also really enjoy about this game is that the game's called Jedi Survivor, right? And and people are like, oh, okay, it's about Cal Kestis, but you've got different types of Jedi that have survived, and not only from Order 66, but from the High Republic era. And I like how they had a bunch of different points, like different points of views from different types of Jedi in this, and kind of and you saw like their journeys from being a Jedi to their corruption. And I know we didn't get that much time with Bode's backstory, but basically Order 66 ruined him. And it ruined him, but also blessed him with a family. And then it ruined him again because the Empire found out. So uh, man, I really, really enjoy this game. I love the free roam. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the customization.
I think something that I like about the game is that it feels good to get lost. Is there many
Yes,
times in the game I came up to points where I'm like, I am definitely lost, but I gained something out of it. There's collectibles around every single corner.
exactly. And then did you do that Easter egg of where like well, it's kind of I want to consider it Easter egg. I just kind of feel like it's just something in the game. Uh, but there's a place in Kobo where like you end up going through like kind of a crack in the wall, and um you have to kind of shimmy on through it, and it gets dark, and then you have to do it like for 3 minutes until you get all the way to the other side, and there ends up being like the
Oh, the one
droids.
with the painting. Yeah. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
that was a very interesting thing to add in the game.
Yeah, I laughed at that.
But yeah, no. And then we can confirm there is a poncho in the game.
There is a poncho in the game.
Yeah, not ponchos, poncho. And it's the one that he had in the first game, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it. I just remember being at Celebration, and
Is
that
there a
was like
poncho in the game? There better be a poncho in the
yeah,
game. All right.
yeah. And you know what? He was right. There was one poncho, just one. Well, yeah, no, man. And we were introduced to so many different characters, and kind of having the chance to fight battle droids that weren't, part of the Separatist Alliance, and they were repurposed was very, very cool to see. And
Mhm.
and going through like the different outposts, having fast travel was great. Again, I think something that I loved about this game, and again, there's a lot of things I love about this game, but I think one thing that I really enjoyed was that it took place in one era, but it brought multiple things from different eras of Star Wars into the game.
Mhm.
So you're fighting during the Empire, but you're fighting battle droids, and and then as you're doing that, you also have the tie-ins to the High Republic era. But this is happening during the Age of the Empire, and it's something that we really haven't seen before in Star Wars. So I think it was phenomenal of them to do all that, and I'm really excited for the third game, and I'm really
Mhm.
curious of where that story is going to go, where Cal's story is going to go, uh, because he is such a great character, and you can definitely tell the people working on this game are fans themselves, and it definitely shows in their acting in the game and the passion, and just everyone who worked on the game. You definitely see the attention to detail and the passion in the work. So I am very, very excited to see of where the franchise goes.
Yeah.
Overall, for the game, I give it a 9. How about you?
Of my faults and everything, I probably give it, yeah, maybe a 9, maybe an 8.5. The things I
Okay.
don't like about the game is probably like performance wise. I was pushing it because I made my field of view extremely long, like extremely big.
Okay.
so you could get more of like it's easier to find collectibles and pieces. I feel like I was really pushing the game, so I had a couple instances that I don't like. My main gripes with the game, I would say, come down to saving. I wish there was an auto save, especially if you could put
Yeah.
an auto save in points where, because I spent hours and hours of just like finding collectibles, and unless you go back to save points, which is like your resting point, it won't save.
Right.
So I had a point where I was going through the game, like I had been maybe like 4 or 5 hours of just finding collectibles, hadn't stopped because I was just enjoying that, and the game crashed on me, and then it sent me right back like 4 or 5 hours beforehand, and I was like, "Cool, we love
Yeah.
that."
Oof. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's performance wise, it sucks on PC that people didn't get a great experience, and I know that that brought down a lot of the original review scores. We'll get back there eventually. So, I mean,
I will
I
say I'm excited to see all the mods that people do for the game, though. I think my
Mhm.
favorite thing would be to play, I would love to be Luke Skywalker and kind of go through different levels in this game. And then I think someone already made a Darth Maul one as well, like a skin for it too. But the mods have endless potential, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But yeah, so if you get the chance to play it, play Jedi Survivor. Don't think about it. Just get the game. And then if you want to kind of have a part of the game with you, I would go to Galaxy's Edge and I would get some of the different stuff from the games. I don't think they have any more of the Jedi Survivor collectible lightsaber that they had on May 4th. They don't have the collector's edition, but they do have the Jedi Fallen Order lightsaber there. They also have, which was just released a couple of days ago. It didn't release on May 4th, but but they do have like the lightsaber stand, which Josh and I were just talking about before we started the episode today, and it's kind of like the lightsaber stand at the workshop tables that you see like throughout the games, which is
Mhm.
super cool. But yeah, I would definitely go and just enjoy the game because it is amazing and it sucked when it got delayed, but I can see why. So love it, love it.
Um, so what did you think about Visions from May the 4th?
Visions Volume 2. I think my favorite episode for all Visions will probably be episode 1 from Volume 1 of Ronin. I thought that episode was fantastic. But for but for this but for this season, I would probably have to say it was episode 6. Um no, I'm sorry. 5. Journey to the Dark Head.
Hmm.
I thought that was to me it was visually stunning. There were a lot of great episodes. There honestly were. I think the second one scared the crap out of Brooke. Like she like jumped off the couch and
Which one is that? The Screecher's Reach.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is an old Irish wise tale told through Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, that because it was our friend Craig, her and I, we ordered pizza, we were watching it, and then you just see the face and the screech, and then she's like, "Nope, nope."
that
But yeah,
that was Ben's favorite episode actually.
the the again spoilers. The Sith person at the end, that look was terrifying. The person coming off the ship in the end, and you've got this very fake looking like this fake nice person, but you can see that like that they're evil, and
Mhm.
that was a very terrifying look, and I was like, wow, that's yikes. But I think all the stories that we got were amazing. I thought the
I think
art.
it's amazing that we're finally getting. See, what's funny is besides the game, the general public wise, that was the number one Star Wars project that people were hyped for.
for
Every for Visions.
Visions. Oh
Mhm.
wow.
I was talking to a lot of people who aren't as familiar with Star Wars, but they were the most excited for Visions as someone who isn't a very dedicated Star Wars fan. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense because and you can basically jump on whenever. It's anthology, so you're able to pull up any single episode and go, I really did like that episode.
Yeah.
You don't have to be dedicated to watching everything of Star Wars to get into this kind of show. Going into the show of what the episodes I really did like, the Spy Dancer was one of my favorite episodes. I think it is my favorite episode of this season.
I
Love
really
the
enjoyed the plot.
animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, plot was great. I had a lot of fun with that. Animation's really good. It's the same people that also helped out on Gennin Taranovsky's Primal, which is the original Clone Wars, the Legends Clone Wars.
Mhm.
I think what was really cool is Al's song had so many elements of South African folklore and South African like themes in it. For me, I was like, this is what I want towards the future of this Vision series. I think if they keep it up and keep pushing these, everyone around the world gets to tell their own Star Wars story. I would love to see one from Australia. I would love to see one from New Zealand. Give a New Zealand person, give the animation studio to like Weta Digital, and I bet you they'd make something really cool.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
For me, I think that like Screecher's Reach, I really liked as well. Seeing everyone around the world being able to give their own take on a Star Wars story is really, really fun. So going towards the future with it, I think they need to keep on letting everyone around the world be able to do a fun little Star Wars story.
Season 3, well, yeah, so Visions Volume 3 is in active development right now, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not surprised because again, not everyone is a gamer, so your comment does make a lot of sense because you don't have to be caught up with everything happening and the Star Wars timeline to really understand these small shorts. And I loved how pretty much each episode was about 20 minutes long, compared to the first volume where each episode was like maybe like 10 minutes, 12, 15. There was no short episode in this one, in my opinion. I thought that they were a very great length. Again, it's also great that it's not tied down to anything, and you really can't tell of what era of Star Wars is taking place in half of the time, because there are some stories where you're like, well, that's definitely taken place during the Empire, or that's taken place, after Order 66. But then there's some stories where you're like, is this taking place during the High Republic era? Is this taking place during the Old Republic? Is it taking place during the Clone Wars? Like, you don't know. And I love the mystery behind that. I love how it's not giving us a opening crawl where it's explaining the entire episode before we go watch it and giving us a backstory, when it just kind of just jumps into it. And it's like, oh, cool, great. It's just its own thing. It's not over the top of just craziness. I don't think do you remember the episode Twins? From man, that episode was just crazy to me. And I like had to step back and be like, whoa, like what is going on here? And I and this one, I enjoyed every story. Even the comedic ones, I think it was done in a very classy way, and it was, kind of putting more comedy into Star Wars, which is something that I know a lot of people want. But for canon wise, it would be really interesting on how they would like kind of do like a comedy Star Wars show. But yeah, that's my take on
it. I definitely think that this is such an easy entry point for, I feel, yeah, as I think we've said before, is like Star Wars is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's simple enough to where someone can get a lot out of it, but not feel the constraints of the Star Wars universe. And that is something that I really hope that the shows can continue with, the canonized side, is that anyone can jump in from anywhere and be able to get a good experience of Star Wars. I feel like it's definitely a problem with Marvel right now. Is everyone's kind of like, I need to watch this and that to be able to enjoy this, or what do I need to watch first? And those are always like the top results. But like, I hope that people will be able to be okay and just relax, watch something Star Wars, and enjoy it with this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
having Visions be there and be that outlet for everyone, I've really enjoyed.
I also, I mean, again, the stories just coming from across the world, and just seeing different points of views of how people see Star Wars was amazing. And Josh, you probably feel this way, but I think us being at the panel for Visions also made these episodes more meaningful as well, because we were there, and we actually had the chance to hear the people that worked on these episodes of kind of their perspectives on why they made it the way they did and their inspiration and everything. And that's one reason why I love going to Celebration, because when these projects come out, I like to kind of dive back into my memory and be like, I was there. I see their vision that they talked about a couple of months back now on my TV screen. And it's more meaningful to me because I heard these people talk in person. I heard their stories. I now see why they did what they did. And just being in the same room with a bunch of people too, and just kind of just talking about,
Mhm.
all this stuff is incredible. So, um, do you think that Star Wars Celebration being at the Visions panel kind of enhanced your experience?
Yeah, I liked hearing everyone's kind of perspective, and being they're all very passionate about being able to show something that they've been working on that incorporates something of where they live. Is
Yeah.
that I feel like George Lucas was 100% like, hey, I like this element from this country, and I'm going to add it in, and then this like being a Jedi is like Buddhism. I love that, and that's from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And you're like, hey, I like these elements of culture for this, and this elements of culture for that, and I'm like, that's great, and it continues to this day. But being able to have those people from those countries be able to tell their Star Wars story is so important to me. Going towards the future, this is one of the Star Wars projects that I hope continues to evolve and change, allowing other people throughout the world to be able to tell their own version of a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
I love it. It's probably the most healthy thing for Star Wars, I
Yeah.
would say.
Because of just the constant of being like, okay, now this is canon, this is canon, this is canon, to kind of
Your average
turning on.
person is
Right.
like, oh gosh, like
That's a lot. Yeah.
like I don't know where to jump in, and I'm like, if you don't know anything about Star Wars, like as much as you know is like lightsabers and Sith are bad and yada yada yada. It's like you could watch episodes of Visions and be able to get a story from it that
Yes.
is impactful, and you'll go, "Wow, that was great, interesting," and you don't have to know insane amounts about Star Wars.
Yes. And that's the other great thing is Star Wars is meant for everyone. You don't have to be a super fan to like Star Wars. You don't have to hate on the super fans. There is different Star Wars projects for everyone. There are people that like the sequels, people who like the prequels, original trilogy, Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance,
Mhm.
uh, all of the old games. There are different sections of Star Wars for everyone, and it's okay to like. It's totally okay to have a different opinion than someone else. That's totally fine. Um, and Visions is just a great opportunity to have a different perspective of Star Wars where it's not like you have to be tied to a certain timeline, where you can just have the heart and soul of what Star Wars is in a very creative way. And that's what Star Wars Visions is. So definitely go watch Volume 2. There's a lot of great, stuff happening in the world of animation. So go and check out Visions. We do have Ahsoka coming up in August, and then we also got a it's kind of news. It came from someone that just announced their involvement. How do you pronounce their name, Josh?
Who?
The actor who plays Steve Urkel.
Oh, well, you can just say Steve Urkel if you want.
Oh, okay, cool.
I feel like people will know who that is more than if I said anything else.
Yeah. So the actor who played Steve Urkel in Family Ties, it sounds like he's going to be playing a pirate in Skeleton Crew, and he also revealed that Skeleton Crew is going to be coming out around the November-December time. So it sounds like it's going to give us a small break from when Ahsoka gets done. Not that long of a break, but just long enough to where, like, it's going to end off the year, and then it will probably lead into maybe the beginning of next year, or end like around Christmas time, and then you got the beginning of next year where we fall into Acolyte, and a lot of us are excited for that. Josh and I were very lucky, and we got to see the trailer. And there's so many lightsabers, guys. So many lightsabers. It is in the High Republic era. It's
Let's go.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to. And if you're an Indiana Jones fan, June 30th is when the new Indiana Jones movie comes out, Dial of Destiny, and you got Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which will be back in theaters on June 4th through the 7th. So if you love Harrison Ford and you love those films, go and see it in the theater, because seeing the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi with a big crowd was awesome. I'm just going to quote Josh on this because it was really funny. I'm like, hey, dude, are you planning on going? You're like, no, I've seen that movie. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah. So please go and follow us on, go and join our Patreon. We have a lot of stuff going on there. I know I say that every time, but we have a lot of exclusive content happening for everyone that is involved and has joined our Patreon. Thank you so much. We love you all. We do this for you when we love doing it, and we got a lot of exclusive content on there. So go and check out our Patreon. And then we're also on YouTube. We have a lot of stuff cooking on YouTube right now. Hunter Smoke just joined our team, and Hunter and I have some stuff that's going to be on YouTube, and Josh as well. And then we're on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Go and check that out. We are slowly turning that into a fact page. So I'm posting more different facts that a lot of people don't know about Star Wars, and then also news coming in. So go and check out our Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Stuff Pod. Again, we're on Patreon at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. Search Star Wars Stuff Podcast on TikTok. We also got an email, starwarsstuffpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out to us, please go and contact us there. That's the best place to contact us. Facebook, Star Wars Stuff Group, and Star Wars Stuff Podcast page. Please write us a review. We love to hear your honesty. We love to get your feedback, even though it's all about David. That's totally fine. And we have a new website. It was stuffpodcastnetwork.com, but now it is Star Wars Stuff Podcast.com, and it's brand new. We have a news article on there now. So we have a bunch of different, like as the news is coming in, we are going to be putting on the website. So go and check that out. We have a great team on there. And that also has a link to all of our projects on there. And then also go on Twitch, Star Wars Stuff Gaming. Again, we want to be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. We love you all. From myself and Josh.
Hello.
May the Force be with you always.